everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're going to be taking a look at Risk Shadow Forces. So I want to make a couple things clear at the very beginning of the game. First of all, Risk Shadow Forces is a legacy game. That means this is a game that has a certain number of games, and in this case, it's 15. As these games go by, you will be adding stickers, maybe ripping up cards, and doing other permanent changes to the game to make the game yours. So keeping that in mind, there are spoilers that are going to happen. Now, I'm in this video going to try to give out no spoilers, but inevitably, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the game works, and that might be a bit of a spoiler in and of itself, and I'm going to talk abstractly about the spoilers, which could spoil it for people, whatever. That's up to you. I'm just talking about the game. I'm not going to get into too much detail about it per se, but just take that warning up front. Secondly, this is not a review as much because I only played this a few times. I opened everything up and looked at all this stuff, read through the rules, went through it. This is more of an overview because I don't have any sort of wanting to play it anymore. And so, well, I mean, you can take that into the account of I'm not a huge fan of this system. And so I wanted to talk a little bit in this video as to why that is. I'm a big fan of Risk Legacy. Risk Legacy changed the landscape of games to some degree. Now, there hasn't been that many Legacy games that have come out, less than 20 major ones in the past decade or so, and that's because Legacy games are very tricky and difficult to do. But it did have an effect on gaming in general because campaigns and games that change from time to time have definitely become a big thing. Risk Legacy inspired one of the most popular games of all time, Pandemic Legacy, which happened to have the same designer. So, Risk Legacy blew my mind the first time I played it. To think of a game where the very first thing the game asked you to do was to rip up a card in the game. And you were like, what? That is crazy. It also changed Risk dramatically. Most people who play board games, you know of Risk and might have played it at some point. And while Risk Legacy definitely was Risk, there were certain things in it, especially, and this I suppose is a bit of a spoiler, if you took the bottom of the box out, in the bottom of the box there was a little thing of cards that said, do not open. And whether you opened them or not, that was up to you and what they did. All these things, as you opened different boxes and sections of Risk Legacy, it was like, wow. Now, it was still Risk. There were still a few problems with the game, but it was pretty impressive and very fun. Pandemic Legacy then said, hey, what if we take that idea and stick it on an actual really good game? And then it went bonkers. So this here is going back to Risk again. And I don't blame them because Risk Legacy is obviously popular enough. But this one, it feels like, this is me speaking here obviously, it feels like the designers of this game took Risk Legacy and said, all right, what about Risk Legacy do we like? We're going to stick that in this game. Great. We have these really cool components that are different for the different factions, little plastic miniatures. These are neat. We're going to have you rip up cards. We're going to have you put stickers on the board. And in fact, some of the rules that came into play over Risk Legacy, at least and especially in the beginning, are in this game almost from the onset. And then they stopped. And this is what mind boggles me about this game. So there's a lot of things about this game that are kind of mad. Some post-apocalyptic future. All the different spots on the board, instead of having names, are numbered. So I have EU01, EU02, EU03. Those are the names. Well, that means it's in Europe, right? But then that's numbered, which makes finding spots on the board less intuitive. Like, oh, it also takes away from the theme a little bit. But at the beginning of this game, you're essentially playing Risk with some extra rules. Those rules are printed on the board. There's a few things that you'll do at the beginning of the game. You'll blow up some of the spots on the board that nobody can go into. There's some stickers you can add. You each will pick a faction. You get a special ability. That stuff you start off with. And then you play a somewhat normal game of Risk, except in this game, just like Risk Legacy, you don't play till you've dominated everything. You play to points, which often, by crushing another player, helps you win the game. Game 2 is where things change completely. In this game, you get a warlord, and these warlords are big plastic miniatures. This is the woohoo moment of Risk Legacy. Like, this is the difference. And you play a tactical game. that's played on these boards that come in the game. And you build some sort of map. And then you literally play a very, very boring game where you run around, roll dice, and shoot at each other. It has nothing to do with Risk at all. This is like a subset of a game, although the decisions that you make will lead into maybe other games and things like that. And your warlord itself has stats, and their stats can go up. But I'm playing one game, and now I switch to another game. And folks, this game is pretty inferior to Risk. And that's coming from someone who's not a huge Risk fan. So the way this game works is, instead of playing through various games and letting things happen, they've seen how other Legacy games make things happen. And so each of the 15 games in this book is very specific. There's no win, no lose. You're going to go forward to the next mission. You're going to play this one. There's objectives or rules. When the game's over, you go on to the next one. Like I said, there are 15 games here in the back. That makes a very linear story. There's not going to be a lot of changes. There's not a lot of interesting things. The game does come with some envelopes to open and one big section of the box that can be opened. If you played Risk Legacy, there were 2 sections of the box that could be opened. And both those sections were like, wow. This one, not even close. Like, not even a little bit wow. I was like, what? That's what was in there? Very disappointing. And each of these things you opened up. If you played Risk Legacy, you're already spoiled on a lot of the stuff of this game. It just feels like it's like one of those, this really feels like the VHS sequel to a movie in the 80s and 90s. One that was not good enough, that just went direct to video, was not good enough to put on, as a sequel to the movie. They changed the main actor, and they followed kind of the same beats as the first movie. And you're like, oh yeah, this reminds me of the first movie. Why don't I go back and play the first movie again? And that's what this game's going to make you do. You play and go, we could just get another copy of Risk Legacy and play through that. I find this to be so unfortunate because I was on board with this. I think the design team for this and the group at Avalon Hill, I think they do a good job, and in the sense of they're all excited. They know what they want to do. They're so enthusiastic. I mean, they definitely sold me on the idea of this. And then I played it and I was like, wow. Again, it felt like a generic version of the original Risk Legacy. And we've moved past Risk Legacy. I liked Risk Legacy, but I'm not normally running back to play that one again because I've seen Legacy games grow and evolve. This one seems to have taken a step back and seems stuck back in those days. And this skirmish thing, what is that? Putting stickers on a board is fine, and Clank Legacy showed us that you can put a ton of stickers on a board. And so this one's like, yeah, well also, and it comes with sheets of stickers that you can put on the board too, and then you get more stickers that you put on the board and put on cards, and then you get more stickers. But there needs to be something else. With Risk, I don't think the base game of Risk is strong enough to carry the game through, like Pandemics. The 3 different Pandemic legacies, base Pandemic is a really good game. Base Risk, not particularly. I know some people out there like Risk, and I'm not trying to shoot down your game, but Risk is a product of the 50s, 60s when it came out, and gaming has evolved since then. So I need the legacy part to be strong, and it's not. And I don't find it an interesting story. I don't really care about what's going on in this. And so this one for me, unfortunately, is a pass. So like I said, wanted to love this game. Thought the first one was a lot of fun, but this one made me just want to go back to the first one again. So that's Risk Shadow Forces. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching The Dice Tower.